Hi, I'm Graham and welcome to Man vs Film, and this time we're going to talk about the third chapter in a horror franchise which usually has me terrified to the bone. Not because it's a scary movie, but because it's usually one of the worst entries in the series. And this movie is Insidious Chapter 3.
Man vs Film.
Insidious Chapter 3 is a prequel to the original Insidious. It stars Dermot Mulroney, Stephanie Scott, Leigh Whannell and Lin Shaye. Now, speaking of Leigh Whannell, he's also the guy who wrote the movie. In fact, he wrote all three of the Insidious movies. He also had a hand in writing Saw franchise as well. And this is his directing debut. Now, like I said, I was a little bit afraid of this for a few facts. Not because it was going to be scary, but because it was a prequel. Which, you know, when horror movies tend towards prequels, they don't quite tie in, or they try to be too winky about it, and it just doesn't come across too well. The third entry in the series is starting to get a bit samey, you know, it's starting to see the reoccurrences, the common sort of themes, the common storyline, and it's a bit overplayed. But I went to see Insidious anyway because I loved the first two, and I'm a great horror fan, and if anything could give me that creepy chill without being just gory for the sake of it, I'm all for that. I do like my horror movies. I'm not too keen on the gore factor of them. I don't see really much point unless that's what you're after. I like the creepy hairs in the back of your neck, clutching the armchairs in the cinema, terrified of what's on the big screen. And that's exactly what I got with Insidious Chapter 3. I found the movie to be almost instantaneously creepy, really scary, really atmospheric. But that's not to say the movie didn't have problems, it did. The storyline itself is kind of hackneyed and thrown together, and there's characters that are in half the movie and then just completely vanish at the end of it. At one moment, the lead character is talking to her friend through FaceTime or Skype or something like that, and she's like, "Who's that next to you?" Obviously it's a spooky ghost type of thing, and the computer freezes. She drops it and then she gets attacked. The friend never calls back. You never hear or see for the friend for the rest of the movie. She's just gone. The last time she saw was some spooky person standing behind a friend, computer went dead. There's the boy next door who has an obvious crush on her, and when she is screaming her head off, being terrorised by this ghost, even though she's a little chap away through the wall, he doesn't do anything. He doesn't come, he doesn't, you know, text her, is everything okay? Not at all. So it does have big plot holes, but Insidious gets a pass because of its atmosphere. This is Leigh Whannell's debut, but he's been around other horror movies. He's seen James Wan do it, and James Wan has become a natural talent at creating these horror movies, and Leigh Whannell's obviously watched, learnt and takes over and keeps what was really good about the first two Insidious movies, and he ties it all together. This is a movie series that can be watched as a trilogy and really just ties together really well. Even the ghost that was in the first movie and the second movie is back for the prequel. But there's other people back as well. Take these two guys, Tucker and Specs, two of the funniest people, two of the best things about the Insidious franchise. But the best person to see back is Lin Shaye as a spooky psychic, and she's got some of the best scenes in the movie and an actual story arc throughout the movie, which is unusual in horror films, but it's nice to see. As for Dermot Mulroney, he's really sparingly used and he's just playing through the motions. He's a cookie cutter performance and it's adequate enough. Stephanie Scott really excels as Quinn Brenner, the main antagonist, the person who's been haunted in this, and that brings me to the ghost. The ghost is really fantastic. One of these spooky images, it's a ghost with an oxygen mask, and all you hear is like the Darth Vader type of thing, you know, but it's in the background, you can't quite see where it is. But the absolutely best thing about this movie is the scares. They are there and they're near in abundance. The creepy factor is there. And yes, you're shouting at the screen, "Get up, run away, why are you doing that? Go, God, no, please don't." But at the same time, you're like, "Oh my God, this is terrifying, this is great, this is where we want it to be, this is the way horror movies should be." And for a third entry, it is particularly impressive. Like I said, there are some story elements that don't quite tie in. When you start to pick it apart, they fall apart. But overall, for me, Insidious is a 4 out of 5. It is a great entry to this franchise. If this is where the franchise stops, fantastic. If there's more, I will definitely go and see it, but this is just a tight-knit trilogy that really works well together. So thanks for watching my review of Insidious Chapter 3. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and if you want to see more of my videos, just subscribe to my link up here and you will be first to get the content as soon as it's uploaded, and I will see you next time on Man vs Film.